What's going on, everybody? I'm Chris Dailey, founder of the Sports Court, and in this interview, I interview Keith Tozer, commissioner of the Major Arena Soccer League and former head coach of the U.S. Men's Futsal National Team. He also had a lengthy playing career in the indoor soccer leagues of the time, and he is now the head honcho leading the MASL as they prepare for the new future and the new age of American soccer. We go over all of this and more in the interview ahead. If you like it, please subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and please drop a like and a comment below. Tell me just what you think of this interview. It really goes a long way. Thank you so much, everybody, and now to the interview. I'm Chris Dailey, founder of the Sports Court, joined here by the commissioner of the Major Arena Soccer League, and as many call him, the face of arena soccer. He's also former head coach of the U.S. National Futsal Team, none other than Keith Tozer. Keith, thank you so much for joining the show.
Yeah, Chris, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, well, excited to get into it here. So you grew up in New York, and you were a star forward, and you had an amazing career in college where you were the all-time points leader at Oneonta. I think I got that right. You then became
Pretty good. Oneonta
Thank you.
State.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You then became the first pick ever in arena soccer in the MISL. So how did it feel to go number one? And could you just talk a bit about your soccer upbringing in upstate New York?
Yeah, let's talk about my upbringing. I was a typical American player, played hockey, baseball, football, track, everything but basketball. And my brother Tom brought home a soccer ball one day. I think it was like 13 years old, maybe. I was intrigued. I played freshman year in high school, led my team in scoring, every year. 1974, I got invited to a U.S. tournament by a guy named Francisco Marcos, who was big he started the USL and another indoor league. So anyways, I went there and played at Hartwick College, which is actually in Oneonta.
Yeah.
I couldn't get into Hartwick College, but I could get into Oneonta State. So I went there, and then I was getting ready to be drafted my senior year in the NASL to the Washington Diplomats, I believe. And I got a call from the Hartwick goalkeeper, Keith Von Aaron. And he said, by the way, you were just drafted number one. I was like, what? Number one where? And he goes, the Major Indoor Soccer League. And I said, well, what the heck is that? Guy named Earl Foreman and Ed Tepper were Philadelphia Flyer season ticket holders. They were at a exhibition game, and they said, wouldn't it be interesting, to take the same hockey rules and play indoor soccer? So they started the MISL, and next thing you know, I got a call. I called up the Diplomats. I said, hey, I have great news. I'm not broke anymore, and I'm going to play 3 or 4 months of professional indoor soccer before you draft me. And then they said, we can't do that. We don't want you to do that. And I was like, why? And they go, we don't want you to play indoor. And I go, okay, well, you guarantee me a contract and you're going to draft me and I won't play indoor. And they said, we can't do that either. So I decided to stay indoor. And then really how I got involved in indoor is I was in the Olympic pool, and our coach, Walt Chesowitz, who was the head coach of the Olympic team, he was friends of Earl Foreman and Ed Tepper, the commissioners. And they just said, hey, can you just do the college draft for us and send whoever you want anywhere? So that's how I got drafted. But we got blackballed for a while. Some players did end up in the NASL, and some of us didn't. But years later, I'm still involved in the indoor game.
That's crazy. I've read a lot about the indoor game back in the day because I was watching The Last Dance a couple years ago whenever that was popular with Michael Jordan, the Chicago Bulls, and they mentioned arena soccer, how the Chicago Stink were outselling the Bulls before Michael Jordan came to town, which is crazy, and it goes to show how popular the game was back in the 80s and 70s. So can you just describe your playing career and life as a pro arena soccer player following that crazy draft story you just had back in the 1980s?
Yeah, actually, I played 1 year in Cincinnati in the MISL. My owner was Pete Rose of Major League Baseball. Pete went from Cincinnati to Philadelphia. So when he did, the team folded. I promised my mom and dad that I'd get a college degree, which I thought was really important. So I played the summer in the ASL for a team called the Pennsylvania Stoners. We actually had 2 NFL place kickers, Matt Barr and Florian Kemp, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I went back to Oneonta in September, was an assistant coach, graduated in December, then went back to indoor soccer. And it was great. I mean, I loved the indoor game. It fit my personality. As a goal scorer, you got the ball all the time, you're shooting all the time. Hopefully, you're scoring all the time. Um, and then one thing led to another, and I became a player coach, and then a coach, and then now the commissioner of the league. So it's kind of like full circle,
Yeah,
I
you
think.
worked your way up. And you mentioned the NASL prior, and my dad always tells me stories because he had season tickets for the Cosmos. So obviously, watching Pele growing up, that's what he remembers about soccer when he was a kid. Did you ever think about moving outdoors and trying your luck in the NASL following the draft? I know you mentioned the whole draft process. You weren't going to go there, but when you were an established player already in arena, did you ever think of jumping ships, perhaps?
That's an interesting question. I don't think anybody's really asked me that. After I went back and got my degree, I went to Hartford Hellions, and then from Hartford Hellions, I was bought. I went to the Pittsburgh Spirit.
Hmm.
No, I became very in tune with the indoor game. I did a lot of summer camps for every team I played for. I worked in the front office doing personal appearances. My degree is a BS in business economics. I felt I needed to learn the different part of
Yeah.
the game, so when I was done playing, I'd have a future doing something else. Hence, I became a player coach. But it's funny because I used to watch the Cosmos play, and obviously Beckenbauer and Dennis Stewart and
Yeah.
Carlos Alberto, Dave DeRico, but the goalkeeper was Shep Messi, and Shep had a huge name, American goalkeeper playing with all these stars. And that first game of indoor, 1978, December 22nd, I was on one end of the field defending one goal, and Shep Messing was defending the other goal. He was the first marquee player to sign in the league. So to play against him, an idol, was really cool. And now we partnered together with the indoor league, JP Dellacamera, obviously for Fox.
Hmm.
We did the Women's World Cup final.
Yeah.
Us we got together and we're partners together in the indoor league. So to watch him play, to play against him, and now to work with him, it's been a really cool experience, I have to say.
Yeah, well, it's cool. You mentioned him. I was watching a podcast earlier today, actually, of an interview with you, and I was studying to get all these questions. And so, whoever it was, they asked you, "What's your favorite memory, or favorite goal?" And you mentioned the goal against Shep, and you were laughing because you said this wasn't a joke. You seriously just wanted to score against him. And then also you mentioned Carlos Alberto. The reason I wear number 5 is because my dad wore number 5 after him, and then got passed down on to me. So that's why I always have worn the number 5 thanks to him. But just to backtrack a little bit, you mentioned you became a player coach, and all of a sudden you became the winningest coach in arena soccer history, have won several championships. What does it mean to hold that record, and what are some of your favorite memories from your time as a coach, primarily with the Milwaukee Wave?
Well, I've been blessed with so many great players and coaches. I mean, if you just look at the assistant coaches I've had, Fernando Clavijo, who was a captain of the outdoor national team and
Hmm.
played for the New York Arrows. Zoran Savic, who's the assistant coach at Sporting KC now for many years. Stevie Morris, Juliano Oliveira, who's now the head coach of the Milwaukee Wave. Mark Litton, Art Kramer. The list goes on and on. So I've been blessed with being surrounded by wonderful people. We won 6 championships. We've been in the finals 10 times, I believe. Um, each one is kind of like children. You love them all. They're all different. They all have different personalities. You all get there a different way, but at the end of the day, it's all about being around people of character. So it's been a journey. I think if I got into another field, it would be a teacher, and
Yeah.
I would be the kind of teacher that would want to take an F and D student and make them a B student, than taking an A student and just maintaining them. So my thirst, my passion, my desire is to teach before I manage and coach. And I love seeing young people get it. We just came back from Iguazu, Brazil, where we took the 2011, 12s, and 13 USYF international teams, and we played against Brazil, we played against Argentina, we played against Paraguay, and to see young boys and girls, the light go on, to really understand, oh my God, I get this. That to
Hmm.
me is inspiring. So that's what keeps
Yeah.
me going.
That's awesome. Something I talk about too a lot because I I'm a coach on the side. I coach rec teams. I volunteer, and I've also helped coach my little sister's team, and it's a C team in my local travel soccer club. And I always say, and my dad and I have helped coach the team, and we would say it's a lot more rewarding to help these girls that really knew nothing about soccer than help the most athletic, naturally gifted kids, because it's a lot harder to take those kids that are, as you mentioned, the effort these students to become that B level student than take a B and turn it into an A. That's a lot easier. And I'm a big Giants fan. That's why I like our new head coach. He took a really bad team and turned us into a playoff team last year. But
Yep.
yeah, so while coaching, you just mentioned futsal briefly as well. You also took a role as head coach of the U.S. national futsal team, something that definitely turned my eye when I was reading about you. So what did that role entail, and how do you recruit players in a sport that is kind of different than arena soccer and really wasn't often played in the country at the time?
Yeah, my first experience, it was in the early 80s. The coach of my team indoor, John Kowalski, was the head coach of the U.S. futsal men's national
Hmm.
team. And he called me up and he goes, FIFA's doing a five-a-side tournament in Budapest, Hungary. And this is the Cold War, right? This is when communism
Yeah.
is in the Eastern Bloc. And I go, well, five-a-side. And he goes, yeah, it's like a basketball court size, blah, blah. So, anyways, Zoran Savic, who's sporting KC,
Hmm.
Jimmy Cabrera, who was another one of my great assistant coaches who played on the outdoor national team. Chris Hellenkamp, myself, and AJ Lakowicki they were like the four stars of my indoor team. And I said to those guys, hey, by the way, let's go to a tryout in New York, but we play as a line. So AJ was the goalkeeper. I was like a defender, believe it or not, as a goal scorer. And then you had Zoran up top and Chris and Jimmy as midfielder, as we call them in futsal. When we went to New York City, I said, John, just put us on the court together for the tryout, and we'll play against whoever. And he put us on the court because we knew each other and we're pretty good players. Next thing you know, John said, okay, let's go to Budapest. Went to Budapest and kind of fell in love with the game. Even though we're indoor players playing a
Hmm.
different style of
Yeah.
indoor, it was an amazing experience. Shoot ahead to 1996, John's head coach, still the national team. He's in Major League Soccer, and he asked if I would be the interim coach in the first CONCACAF qualifiers.
Hmm.
So I took the team to Guatemala. We won the gold medal. I became the head coach for 20 years. I think we've been in 6 CONCACAF championships, two or three World Cups. So it was great. So I got to play it and then got to coach it for so many years.
That's awesome. Futsal is such an amazing sport. I was watching something about Falco, the best Brazilian. Hope I pronounced it right, but Falco, okay. Because I was watching. I've been trying to get into more about like professional futsal, right? Because I just do my own futsal league, as I mentioned to you, and he said that every kid, and even his own kids who are now professional soccer players in their own right, under the age of 12 should just be playing futsal, or under the age of 11 just to get as many touches on the ball as possible, because in futsal you're getting hundreds of touches on the ball compared to a regular 11v11 or 9v9 practice where you're not going to be getting as much technical work on the ball, which is just a really interesting observation he said, and something that a lot of people or some people have called to be applied to in America. I don't think it's going to happen necessarily, but it's definitely a good idea that futsal should be more heavily promoted, which you've done as well with the U.S. Youth Futsal as technical director. So how did you grow the game in the States, and how rewarding is it to see futsal where it's come with hundreds of kids showing up to your ID clinics?
Well, we've been selling this vacuum cleaner for about 45 years. Slowly, people are starting to believe it. I mean, if you look at the Spanish women who just won the world championship, extremely technical players,
Yeah.
uh, great in tight spaces, ability to keep possession of the ball, great counterattacks, great on restarts, defends quite well. In Spain, many years ago, their federation decided that futsal would be part of their player development, and hence their men's several World Cups ago won it. You have France; they have put futsal into their youth development. Hence, they won the last World Cup.
Hmm.
If you look at Argentina, uh, all their players played futsal growing up. They just won the most current world championship. If you look at Portugal, they have it. So if you look at some of the top football countries in the world, they all have futsal as a player development. I slowly see this as happening in our country. I really feel like if we spent more money and got more involved and believed in it in the higher level, that we could be on a fast treadmill. I think futsal could be the game changer
Uh,
for player development in our league and a great sport on our own. Like indoor soccer. Indoor soccer is similar to futsal, just one more player
yeah.
and a little bit bigger field. But I really think that indoor, as well as futsal, can be the game changer for our outdoor program in the country.
I think so too. Because I see it firsthand with me with the futsal league I run. Like people love it. Kids that don't even like soccer love futsal just because it's a bit more high scoring, faster paced for sure, which relates to basketball and hockey. The other traditional sports in America, but. In itself, America, very athletic country, and now if you get more technical players on the ball, something could really happen here. And just to touch base now on that title that you have right there, MASL Commissioner, that is your current role. So MASL reminds me of the NHL in regards to you have kind of a cult following. When I went to that Baltimore Blast game, I was shocked how many fans really passionately loved the Baltimore Blast, and I'm sure that's apparent in the other markets that you guys are in. So, what have been your biggest obstacles since you've took over, especially navigating the company after COVID?
Well, I always say that players need to learn how to become players. Coaches need to learn how to become coaches. Owners need to learn how to become owners. And commissioners need to learn how to become a commissioner. So when I stepped in the role with Shep as chairman and JP as president of the company of media, I think there's a learning curve for us. Even though we had, over 100 years collectively of
Mm-hmm.
experience in the game, there was things that we didn't know. So now I think we're much farther ahead. We're into our third year. I probably wouldn't have done it if I had to do it on my own. So it was great to be in this journey with them. John Raymond, who pretty much is like the deputy commissioner, has done a wonderful job. Rob Stryer, who's our strategic officer, has done a wonderful job. So it was kind of like we bought this car. We needed to fix it up before we sold it. And I think we fixed it up now where now I think it's ready to be shown there. I mean, this last World Cup has been great, the women. I think Messi coming to Major League Soccer is going to help. With the World Cup coming in 26 is going to help. So I think all these wonderful things are beginning to happen again. I think this is like the third phase. The first phase was Pele. The second phase was Beckham. The third phase is Messi. Pele, when he came, soccer was just really at its infancy, I would say. Beckham came in the middle, but now Messi coming. I mean, it's here, and it's kind of been great that watching him play in our country and the World Cup coming to North America in 26 and how well everything else is going. I think it's perfect timing. So
It is.
we're looking for more expansion in indoor. We have a player combine. So any outdoor players, futsal players who want to play professional indoor soccer, it's October 19th to the 22nd in Utica. Actually, I just got an email from a 17-year-old futsal player from Australia who wants to come and try out. So
Hmm.
we're looking forward to
That's
seeing the
awesome.
next generation of indoor players.
Yeah, that's really terrific, and I think you really hit the nail on the head there when you talk about Messi coming. It is the perfect time, and it's absurd when you really think about it and you let it sit that the biggest athlete in the United States plays soccer. And if I told you that, 5 years ago, people really wouldn't believe it. Maybe you would have believed it, but the average American, and all of a sudden, Leo Messi's bigger than LeBron James, which is just terrific for the sport in itself. And now, for people that don't know about the MASL, I was just talking about the average American citizen. What would be your elevator type pitch to them in regards to why they should look into this new up and coming league here?
Well, everything is this thing, right?
Hmm.
So everything is Snapchat and Reels and everything's 30 seconds and you know you need high scoring things. I mean, for the younger generation, indoor soccer is great because, I love outdoor soccer, but if I'm a goal scorer and you can tell me, hey, instead of taking 3 shots a game, I can take 20 shots a game. And if I'm a goalkeeper and being outdoor and facing 5 shots a game, I can not only face 20 shots, but I can now go forward. The indoor game really fits our society right now. If you like to see technical ability, tactical awareness, action, high scoring, great saves, great defense, indoor soccer is the game. It was in the 80s, but you already said Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and a guy named David Stern came to the NBA and propelled that league past indoor soccer. And at a time, we were bigger,
Yeah.
than the NBA. But those men did a wonderful job getting that league to where it is. And hopefully one day, I don't want to keep talking about the past of indoor soccer.
Yeah.
So many people say, "Oh my God, in the '80s was great." Yeah, that's great. It was 43 years ago. So I want to stick on what the future can be. And I think with Major League Soccer, with the World Cup coming, with the full women's national team for futsal now, with us expanding another team in Guadalajara in Mexico, I just think it's going to get bigger and better sooner.
That's awesome. And just have two more questions here to wrap up, but just to kind of talk about what you just mentioned. It was 43 years ago, so let's talk about the future a little bit. What are your short-term goals and then your long-term goals with the MASL and the future? What do you think the future of the futsal in the United States also looks like?
Yeah, we tweaked the rules a little bit when we first took over. We changed the goalkeeper rule. We found out that goalkeepers, on an average between two keepers, had the ball over 100 times, and we felt that we wanted the ball to go forward. We wanted goal scoring. So we tweaked some of the rules, which created a lot of angst among some people. But the game itself is wonderful. The level of play in our league is exceptional, actually. I'll tell you, there was a tournament in Cary, North Carolina, a month and a half
Oh
ago,
yeah, the
the
TST.
TST
Yeah,
77. And the team that won it was actually coached by an indoor player. And Drew Ruggles had the game winning. That team was
I interviewed
indoor.
Tony Walls, who was on the team, and he played for the Ambush and all sorts of MASL teams.
Yeah. So really kind of showcased, what our players. So I think as far as the game is concerned, it's wonderful. But we need a Messi. We need a big name player that would come to the league and instantly transform it. I mean, Messi, I can only imagine him playing indoor, right? And not only do we need a big name player, we also need an owner that everybody, maybe not only in North America knows, but around the world. I mean, the guys that took over Wrexham, and that story in the EPL, and they finally got him into the third division. We need a movie star. We need a
Yeah, like Ryan
high
Reynolds. Yeah,
level pro player. We need, because really owners always, when they want to come into a sports league, always want to say, well, who's my partners? And if you have other successful business people, and we do, our owners are wonderful,
hmm
but we need an icon on the field, an icon team, and I think that will really propel us. So for us, I think if we can get that, then it's going to be a big shot in the arm.
it's awesome. And in terms of that, to kind of gets into my last question, I was going to ask you if you are gonna or you're in the looks of signing a superstar, which definitely answers that question. But in funding in itself for a soccer league, and my operation I do is definitely a lot less as significant as yours in terms of funding. But how does that play a factor into this? And are you guys trying to launch a bid at somebody, or you have anybody in mind that you could potentially seek out and think could be a huge addition to the league in terms of players or ownership?
Well, we already have Ronaldinho. I'm sure you know
Yeah,
Ronaldinho.
of
So
course.
Ronaldinho
Yeah.
is going to be a part owner of the team in Vegas. So we have him, and it'll be interesting to see what players that he brings with him, because of Shep and JP's global relationships and mine in the futsal world. There has been coaches and players from around the world that have now seen what arena soccer is in this country. So I think it's just a matter of time till we get maybe an outdoor club in another country to buy a indoor team here in the United States. And I think it's only a matter of time that we get a star player in outdoor, maybe towards the end of his career, which is okay, right?
Yeah.
To
There's no
come and
problem with
play
that. Yeah.
in indoor soccer. So I don't. Is it going to happen or not going to happen? I don't think it. I think it's more about when is it going to happen.
Hmm. Yeah, that's really a good answer there, and I'm looking forward to the future of the MASL. Hopefully, some new stars, and hopefully a team in New Jersey. If you can get on that too, that'd be nice for me. But
Well, we used to have one a long time
yeah,
ago.
I know. Yeah, because I look into the history of soccer, and you mentioned the phases. Pele was the infancy, but what people don't know is the U.S. finished third at the first World Cup, and people say, "Oh, there's 8 teams," but I mean, truth be told,
Actually,
U.S.
they finished second in
Hmm.
another World Cup with my coach, John Kowalski. And he had Mike Winderschmidt and he had Fernando Calvillo and Victor
Yeah.
Noguera. So uh, that was their best finish ever. At that time, futsal, there was no pro leagues in futsal.
Hmm.
So you could take your best indoor players and compete, uh,
Yeah.
uh, obviously, in the final. Now, the top 10, 12 countries in the world in futsal all have pro leagues.
Yeah.
So in order for us to take that next level, we would have to do that. But right now, 85% of the players in our national team come from the major arena soccer league.
Hmm.
So we're proud of that.
Yeah, it's awesome. And the beach soccer too. I interviewed Nick Pereira, who's a legend in both regards there. But yeah, in 1930s, I was actually talking about outdoor soccer. Excuse me, I apologize about that. But the U.S. that's their highest finish, third at like the FIFA Men's World Cup, and then the Great Depression happened, and all the owners lost their money, and soccer was never the same until Pele,
No,
until Beckham, until Messi. Now, so back then, I mean, soccer was bigger than baseball, which nobody really knows about. It was becoming bigger than baseball, and they were drawing in 20,000 people to these games, which was it's just crazy to look at. I'm kind of a nerd when I look into the history of that type of stuff, which I love because I love history and I love soccer. So
I used to go watch Shep play at Giant Stadium in front of 85,000.
yeah, exactly. And my dad mentions that too to me with the Cosmos. He would sold out crowd. So then that happened, but obviously the NASL went defunct, and then the whole Beckham and Messi era. And now MLS is finally looking on the up, and so is MASL. But it's really awesome to see, and I really appreciate you doing this interview with me. So happy I got to be able to do this.
My pleasure, Chris. Anytime.
Yeah. Thank you.